now for what's trending in true crime. Convicted murderer Lori Vallow is now going to face murder charges in the state of Arizona. The 50-year-old was extradited and booked into the Maricopa County Jail as she faces multiple counts of murder. One count of first-degree murder for the death of Charles Vallow, and that's her fourth husband, and another count of first-degree premeditated murder for allegedly plotting to kill Brandon Boudreaux, the ex-husband of her niece. Vallow made her initial appearance on Thursday and is scheduled back in court on December 7th. So our question this morning is, will the cult mom face the possibility of the death penalty once again? Let's bring in our guest. Criminal defense attorney Fallon Stokes is still with us, and now joining us, trial and former criminal defense attorney Eric Wilson and law enforcement expert Sonny Slaughter. So good to see all of you here. So what do you think? Let's start with you, Erica. Do you think that in Arizona, a death penalty state, that she will actually face the death penalty when she didn't get it put on the table for her back in Idaho?
Absolutely, and the possibility is there. And this is one of those cases, this is like second to the Murdaugh case. This is like the case that just keeps on giving. There's so many different layers and so many charges that we're seeing across the board. But you got to understand, you're dealing with a different jurisdiction, different prosecutors, different juries, so you absolutely can see the possibility of her having to face the death penalty for the first-degree murder and the premeditation for first-degree murder.
Sonny Slaughter, do you think they'll take into consideration, because prosecutors have to put it out there initially, that file a notice. We know they did that in Idaho initially and then had to remove it. But do you think the fact that she was already convicted without the death penalty in front of the jury impacts whether or not prosecutors will make a different decision this time?
I think that they're going to make the decision to charge her with the death penalty. As Erica just stated, you know, different jurisdiction, different state, and people want to see her get severe justice. She is a criminal by design and by impact. She looks good, she walks well, but she is very dangerous. If you look at the number of law enforcement professionals that are surrounding her, they're not doing that because she is not dangerous, and I think Arizona is going to go for the maximum that they can to ensure that she does not ever get out again.
Fallon, Arizona is one of those states. There are some that still have the death penalty but haven't had executions in a long time. Arizona had 3 executions last year, and I looked up the last 40 since 1992. No women executed in Arizona during that time period. Do you think that's an implication at all when prosecutors are weighing this, or whether people expect that that's going to be on the table?
I mean, well, she could be the first, even though they haven't done it in, you know, a few decades. But this is a situation where Lori Vallow has been involved in the news, and, you know, with it circulating around the deaths of her kids, which she has been convicted of, as well as the murder of her husband's ex-wife. It's just, it's incredible. This story, like the other attorney says, it just keeps giving. So it could be a situation, she's in another jurisdiction. It's going to be a new set of eyes, different facts, different charges involving 2 more murders that she is allegedly involved in. And until, you know, this case goes up to trial, you can really see the evidence they have against her. You know, I guess it's going to be a tough decision if they go for the death penalty, but they're going to need to have all their ducks in a row if they're going to present a case for the death penalty, even though she's been convicted of 3 murders already.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have to have their ducks in a row. Let's switch gears now to another mom who's making headlines. The wife of the Gilgo Beach murder suspect, Rex Heuermann, is receiving allegedly $1 million worth of backlash. The Daily Mail is reporting that Heuermann's estranged wife, Asa Ellerup, has agreed to take part in a documentary series that's centered around his upcoming trial. It's a deal that is set to pay Ellerup, according to that report, at least $1 million for her participation. Families of the Gilgo Beach victims are not happy with NBC streaming service Peacock. They're the ones who are going to be airing that series about this deal. Now, they're calling that agreement, quote, evil for seemingly exploiting the tragic events. And the authorities and Ellerup's attorney claims that she wasn't aware of Heuermann's alleged acts. But could this deal be viewed as offensive? Now, her attorney told Court TV he didn't have a comment on whether or not there was a deal. But let me ask you, Fallon, on that point, a deal like that, if she's getting $1 million for taking part in a series that has to do with these murders, let's start with whether or not she should do that from a prosecutorial and a defense attorney standpoint when she's claiming innocence and no knowledge in what happened.
Well, as a defense attorney, I wouldn't want her doing it, especially if it's still an upcoming trial for these murders. But, you know, I think it does look pretty insensitive, especially with the amount of money. But not knowing what she may need in this situation, I don't know with the defense of her husband's case, you know, that $1 million is probably going to some factor to either support herself or to support her family or her husband, you know, in his criminal defense. So, you know, if it's an opportunity, I guess if someone wants to pay you $1 million to get your story out there, but she's saying she knew nothing about these murders, it's going to be interesting in what she can detail and what she can present in the documentary or the docuseries to talk about these killings. But, you know, when you think about, you know, the victims or the families of the victims in this case, you know, it's pretty tragic. And I know it would seem very offensive to them that, you know, the defendant's wife is exploiting the situation and making money off of it when their loved ones are long gone. So very interesting, but I guess we'll see how this plays out. But as a defense attorney, and if I was going to trial and defending a case, I wouldn't want a documentary coming out like this prior to trial.
Sonny Slaughter, Peacock says that they did not pay her for the deal or to appear. They paid her for pictures or licensing of things that they needed in order to produce this. I can tell you from a journalist standpoint, we reach out to both sides. We try to get interviews with people on both sides. No kind of $1 million deals, but what do you think people are thinking about Peacock for having something like this and then seeing this headline of $1 million to a woman who was married to someone accused of such heinous acts?
Peacock is in the business, as all journalists would be, into putting the information out in the front line and getting the story correct. The only way they could get access to the information is by interviewing the wife and the other family members and obtaining that information. While it may seem heartless and heavy, remember, there are victims on both sides. This is a woman that was married to an alleged serial killer. She has not been indicted, convicted, or alleged to have been involved in any of these murders. And so she is by way still a victim. This is what I call an indirect victim. So she has the information, the access that the television studio needs, and it is not unusual for people to benefit from those things. And they couldn't get it right without her. So I don't see a problem with it. I know it is problematic, but it is the way that we do things in business. And this is a business transaction. And if you look at the conditions in which she and her family once lived, she needs this.
Erica, to Sonny's point, which is a really good one, Asa Ellerup's attorney says that her life has been flipped upside down. Her privacy is being invaded when she goes anywhere, that she can't live without intrusion because of these alleged things that her husband did that she says she didn't do. What's your thought on is this $1 million deal offensive?
I think it's offensive just in that these type of documentaries kind of re-traumatize the families, and they exploit these tragedies on that behalf. And again, from a defense attorney's perspective, I would never, under any set of facts, want my client to participate in this because you have no control, you have no autonomy over what these producers may kick out and what version of the story that they're going to tell. As we saw with the Take Care of Maya, that is a documentary that led to the sensationalism of that particular trial. I definitely would not want that for this case.
All right, Erica Wilson, thank you so much for being on with us. I know we have to say goodbye to you, but Sonny Slaughter and Fallon Stokes, you're going to be sticking around. Here's what's coming up next.
It said she'd gone for a bicycle ride and didn't return. I flew out the next morning and they had found her bicycle, but no Suzanne.
After 3 years of searching, Suzanne Morphew's remains were found back in September, but no developments since then. Our power panel is going to be weighing in on what might be holding up this case. Plus, we're going to get you ready for today's hearing in the Microsoft exec murder case as the Lovebirds, Shanna Gardner and Mario Saldana, appear in court together for the first time.
Hannah Payne witnessed a hit and run.
Now a man is dead, and prosecutors are accusing her of taking the law into her own hands.
Either she or he fired the trigger in some kind of a struggle over the pistol.
The officers generally ask who fired a shot, and she makes statements to both of them admitting it was her.
Bizarre set of circumstances.
But will a jury see her actions